You know what they say about neighbors, right? They can either make your life a dream or turn it into a nightmare. Well, for me, it was the latter. I never imagined a peaceful lakeside retreat could become the backdrop for something that felt like an episode of CSI HOA edition. One summer, I bought a cabin by the lake, hoping to escape the city grind. It was supposed to be my sanctuary. No more stress, no more meetings, just peace and quiet. Right? But little did I know, I wasn't just buying a cabin. I was unknowingly walking into a feud that would have the local HOA, yes, Homeowners Association, sending police to my property. Not once, not twice, but 5 times. And get this, I wasn't even a member of the HOA. Sounds insane, doesn't it? But it gets crazier. They harassed me, tried to fine me for ridiculous things, and even went as far as sabotaging my cabin in ways I still can't believe. And me? Well, I wasn't going to take it lying down. I took them to court. And not only did I win, but I made them regret the day they ever decided to mess with me. Stick around. You won't believe what happens next. The trouble started the minute I got my hands on the deed. There was something about this lakeside community that just screamed perfect getaway, trees, tranquility, and, oh, what's that? A cozy little cabin just sitting there waiting for me. The last thing I expected was to become public enemy number 1 in the eyes of a board of self-appointed gatekeepers. I thought the HOA was there to help, to maintain the neighborhood's charm. But right from the start, I had neighbors whispering about them, telling me stories. "Don't cross them," one lady said. "They're more powerful than you think." I shrugged it off. After all, I wasn't even a member. Why would they care about me? Then it happened. One morning, while I was sipping coffee on the deck, I saw a police car pull up. My heart sank. A police officer stepped out, clipboard in hand. "We've had complaints about you," he said, looking me dead in the eye. Complaints? About what? I had barely even seen the neighbors. Apparently my non-membership in the HOA was a crime. They wanted me to pay for all sorts of fees, fines for things like violating aesthetic rules, which I didn't even know existed. And they weren't just sending a letter. They were sending the police. I tried reasoning with them. "I don't even belong to the HOA," I said, trying to keep my cool. But they were relentless. They gave me a warning. That was just the beginning. From that moment on, the attacks came fast and furious. It started with small fines. "You have an unapproved mailbox. The landscaping doesn't meet our standards." I was scratching my head at first. A mailbox? Seriously? I tried to ignore it. But then, it escalated. It wasn't just fines. I'd get a knock on the door from the police, or a letter from the HOA. They even started reporting every tiny infraction to the local authorities. The mailbox was offensive, my lawn wasn't perfect enough, and, wait for it, they even claimed my boat on the lake was a nuisance because it was too close to shore. One day, I came back to my cabin to find my boat had been towed, without my permission. Tow trucks don't show up out of nowhere for no reason. When I asked the tow company why it happened, they simply said, "We were told it was illegal." Who was behind it? The HOA. And I hadn't even begun to tell you about the neighbors. One of them, a real piece of work named Karen, would walk by every day with a smug smile. She'd stop, look at my cabin, and shake her head. The worst part? She was always in communication with the HOA, reporting every little thing she didn't like about my property. It was insane. They were monitoring my every move. I was so stressed out, I barely slept. At one point, I wondered if they had planted cameras. The harassment was relentless. But then, something clicked. They can't keep getting away with this. I was done being the victim. I had to do something. That's when the real plan began to take shape. The thing about these kinds of situations is, if you're going to win, you can't just fight back in the traditional way. You need to outsmart them. And that's exactly what I set out to do. I began collecting every scrap of evidence, photos of the fines, recordings of phone calls. I even kept a detailed log of every single encounter with the police and the HOA. I knew that if I was going to take this to court, I had to build a rock-solid case. I also realized something. The HOA was just a small group of people with too much power. They acted like they were untouchable, like they could do whatever they wanted, and no one would challenge them. But I wasn't scared. I had to make sure I had the right strategy to turn the tables. One evening, I decided to send them a letter, politely worded, but very firm. It outlined my intention to seek legal recourse if they didn't stop harassing me. But I didn't stop there. I started speaking with other cabin owners in the area. It turned out I wasn't the only one they'd been targeting. A couple of them had similar stories. One woman's shed was apparently a blight because it didn't match the HOA's preferred color palette. Ridiculous. The moment of calm came when I realized how easy it was to turn the tables. By gathering like-minded people, I could form a united front. I spoke with a lawyer, and we began preparing for the fight. I made a big move. I posted a sign in front of my cabin that read, "This property is under investigation for unlawful HOA harassment." It wasn't just for the HOA. It was for the public, for the neighbors. I wanted everyone to know what was going on. That sign felt like a victory in itself. The day in court was like something out of a movie. The HOA board was there, all smug smiles as they presented their case. But what they didn't know was that I was ready. My lawyer and I had our evidence. The neighbors who had been wronged were there too, ready to testify. I watched the judge's face as he looked over the evidence. The room was tense. At one point, the HOA's lawyer tried to pull some shady moves, but it didn't work. The moment I'd been waiting for came when the judge slammed his gavel down and announced, "This is a clear case of harassment and abuse of power. I'm ruling in favor of the defendant." I won. The HOA was ordered to stop harassing me, and they were fined for their illegal actions. But the best part? They had to pay for all my legal fees. I walked out of that courtroom with my head held high, knowing I had just dismantled their little empire. The neighbors? They were cheering. I had done it. I had beaten them at their own game. And the best part? They knew they could never mess with me again. It's funny how things can change. One minute I'm just a guy enjoying a peaceful cabin by the lake, and the next I'm fighting the system. But in the end, I didn't just win a lawsuit, I regained my peace of mind. The biggest lesson I learned from all of this: never let anyone, no matter how much power they think they have, bully you. Whether it's an HOA or some self-important neighbor, stand up for yourself. Speak up. If you don't, they'll just keep pushing, and you'll be stuck in their game forever. So, what would you have done? Would you have just paid up and walked away? Or would you have fought back like I did? Comment below with your thoughts. And if you've ever been in a similar situation, comment "justice served" if you made it to the end of this story. I'm sure glad I fought back. I don't think they'll be sending cops to my cabin anymore.